Let's go to Denver, Colorado, where Kirsten is joining us. Kirsten, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hi, Ken. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet. What's going on today, Kirsten?
So I have a question about the current job that I'm in that I would love your perspective on. Sure. Just a little background. So up until very recently, I was working in a job that I got to do a lot of different things in. The work was challenging. I really enjoyed the work I was doing, but the culture at this job was very toxic and got worse and worse and worse. And I really had no work-life balance, and I ended up leaving. And so about 4 months ago, I took a new job. And the culture at this office is amazing, and the people are great. I've, set some boundaries with work, and that's actually encouraged there. And I have a lot better work-life balance. But unfortunately, I'm discovering that, to be honest, I'm kind of bored. The work isn't challenging. I don't feel like I have enough meaningful work to fill my day. I really honestly feel like I could be doing this as a part-time job instead of a full-time job. And so I'm just wondering what advice you have. Should I, beef up my resume and start looking for another job? Should I talk to my boss about it? Should I stick it out and see if it gets better? I love your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple ways we could go with this. First question. We know the culture's great and all that, but do you see in the 4 months you've been there a potential ladder where you could grow? Do you see other positions in the company that you say, I know I could do that, I know it would be a bigger challenge, and that's leading me even further towards the ultimate direction, which is my dream job? What are the answers to those questions?
Well, I think so I work in higher education, and so the department that I'm in, I think that the immediate ladder that I see is to the job that my boss has, which is the director of marketing and communications. Mm-hmm. And I really don't want that job. Marketing is not is not what I like to do.
Got it.
However, there are other communications departments within this large higher education institution that I work for, such as university relations, that really more appeals to me, but that's not really where I sit right now.
Okay. What would it take for you to eventually fit that? Are you talking about experience? You need a little bit more experience to apply for those positions?
Yeah, I think so. A little bit more experience, and perhaps just being in this industry a little bit longer. Okay. I came from healthcare, and so now that I'm in higher education, that's very different. Okay. So I think for more experience in this industry might be helpful.
Okay, great. Well, I want you to find out if that's true. If you do need more experience, a little bit more staying power in higher education, you've only been there 4 months, so you're absolutely a beginner, and I think you're really wise and you figured that out. So that's what I meant by there are a couple ways you can go. Okay, and you might think of a third way, so feel free to jump in here. We're talking about your life, right? So jump in here if I say something that may or may not be possible. The first thought is you stay where you are, even though you're bored, because it is a great culture. So that's the good news. It would be bad if you're bored and it's a boorish place, if you will, right? Where it's just it's not good. And by staying, here's what's happening. You are getting more of that experience. You're getting a little bit of tenure, and you are connecting while you're doing it. So for instance, because you're now in the club, right? You begin to figure out who are some key people that I eventually would like to get their attention and their approval in those other jobs you just mentioned in different departments. Because it's a lot easier to get connected when you're in the club than when you're outside the club trying to get in the velvet ropes, right?
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So then what you would do in this scenario, this is just one scenario, you would adjust your attitude and you'd go, I am bored, but I also need to be grateful, right? Because I'm where I want to be, all right? And so now I'm going to come up with ways to challenge myself. And I think the way it is just, you know what? Do the boring job. You're using a third of your brain most likely, maybe less. And so how are you growing when you're off? How are you challenging yourself to get ready for the next opportunity, the next rung on the ladder? Okay, that's all in scenario one. Scenario two is you try to leave, and you will eventually be able to leave, and you move into, you stay in the higher ed industry, but you try to move into that communications role or some type of communications role as you have laid it out for me, and you try to find an entry-level position so that you, A, are still in the industry that you want to be in, but B, you are now on the ladder that you want to be on for that dream job. So I think those are the two scenarios. Thoughts on that? Questions?
No, I think that's good advice. I think I'll probably end up staying where I am. I'm a very committed person, and I don't like, going back on those commitments. I took this job with a commitment of seeing it through, and it's a brand new position that I'm building. And so,
well, there you go. So you know what? There's a little responsibility on you. If you're building the position, how about building yourself a little challenge in there?
No, that's true.
Now, here's something else. It would be a little risky leaving after 4 months, if you went to another higher ed institution. And it feels like to me, you like this institution.
I do, yes.
Feels like to me there's a ladder that goes all the way to the top or close to it. Am I right? Your dream?
There is, yes.
Then stay put. You know what it is? You're just a rock star, and you're young. and listen, nothing wrong with that. But let me give you one thing that I taught myself early on. I was 33, 34, 35, 3 kids, starting over, trying to get into broadcasting, and I wanted it to happen fast. I needed it to happen fast for my psychology, my personal mental and emotional state. And I remember one day telling myself this, and then I wrote it down. And this is what I told myself. Ken, and I'm saying this to you today, Kirsten, don't obsess about the next, because if you do, you'll miss what you need in the now and ultimately sacrifice the next. It is very natural for us as human beings to always be looking forward and looking to the future. That's a wonderful thing, but out of check in an unhealthy way. And that's what I mean by don't obsess. If you spend all of your time obsessing about how bored you are and how this is not what you ultimately want to do, you will eventually sacrifice the next in that institution and maybe even delay your dream unnecessarily because you can't focus on the now and go, you know what? I got to pay my dues in the now. And I'm going to have to figure out how to be great in the now in order for the next to present itself. And so that's the lesson for all of us, not just the lesson for Ken Coleman or the lesson for Kirsten. It's a lesson for all of us. And if you keep that mindset, Kirsten, you'll be able to hang on long enough to get where you want to go. You hear what I'm saying?
I do, yes. Thank you very much.
You're awesome. I think you're a rock star. Thanks for the call, and I can't wait to see what you're going to do. You're going to change a lot of lives. Really, really fun. What a sharp, sharp lady she is.